Breaking. King Charles stuns entire UK after signing secret document about William's coronation. What if the entire British monarchy as you know it is currently operating on a massive legally binding lie? What if King Charles didn't just sign a routine piece of paperwork behind the closed doors of Windsor Castle, but instead initiated a terrifying high-stakes coup against his own household? Imagine a document so dangerously volatile, so profoundly threatening to the status quo, that only 3 sealed copies are permitted to exist on the entire planet, guarded by armed security and locked away from the desperate, prying eyes of a completely blindsided Queen Camilla. We are talking about an absolute constitutional earthquake that has sent shockwaves through the cobblestone streets of London and left senior palace courtiers hyperventilating into their Earl Grey tea. The mainstream media is desperately trying to play this down as standard royal procedure, but we see right through the velvet curtain. This is a cold-blooded, meticulously calculated tactical strike. A king, facing his own mortality and a fractured palace, drawing a line in the sand and handing the keys to the kingdom to his heir before anyone could mobilize to stop him. The future of the British crown didn't just alter. It was violently hijacked in the middle of the night by a father admitting his son's hour has officially arrived. Are you ready to uncover the hidden clauses the palace is begging us to ignore? Strap in, drop a comment below, and smash that subscribe button right now, because the truth we are about to unseal will change everything you thought you knew about the royal family. The locked doors of Windsor Castle do not just keep the public out. They keep the most explosive secrets of the global elite entirely contained within walls that have witnessed centuries of betrayal, political assassinations, and calculated shifts in absolute power. When King Charles III walked into his private study at an hour when even the most loyal palace guards were battling exhaustion, he wasn't just carrying a heavy leather portfolio. He was carrying the death warrant of the old guard, a document crafted in such complete isolation that its very existence threatens to dismantle the carefully manicured public image of the House of Windsor. Standing beside him was not a team of high-priced public relations advisors or the Prime Minister, but rather his constitutional secretary and the keeper of the Privy Seal, 2 men sworn to absolute secrecy under penalty of treason. The red dispatch box resting on the mahogany desk between them was not the standard government container filled with mundane tax reports or diplomatic pleasantries. It was wrapped in a specialized wax seal that had not been utilized since the abdication crisis of 1936. When the king broke that wax, the sound echoed through the room like a gunshot, signaling the definitive end of an era and the chaotic, unauthorized beginning of another. Inside lay the succession instrument, a deeply controversial and highly volatile royal order that begins the comprehensive, legally binding preparations for Prince William's coronation, while Charles remains completely alive, fully conscious, and actively sovereign on the throne. This is not a standard abdication protocol, nor is it a temporary regency act sparked by medical incapacitation. It is a deliberate, targeted bypass of the traditional constitutional channels designed to strip control away from competing palace households before they even realize the game has changed. For years, the public has been fed a carefully sanitized narrative regarding the seamless transition of power within the British monarchy, a fairy tale of duty, unity, and generational respect. But behind that gilded facade lies a multi-million-dollar industry of corporate influence, hidden agendas, and rival factions fighting tooth and nail for a piece of the ultimate global brand. The mainstream media wants you to believe that the royal family operates like a cohesive corporate board, but the reality is much closer to a corporate hostile takeover disguised as ancient tradition. By fixing a strict ceremonial date window and granting Prince William immediate, sweeping authority over his own crowning ceremony, Charles effectively blocked a massive network of entrenched courtiers, aristocratic lobbyists, and commercial interests from delaying or manipulating the inevitable transition. The true controversy here lies in the absolute, brutal exclusion of those who believe they held the reins of the monarchy's future, most notably Queen Camilla and her extensive circle of loyal advisors, who have spent the last decade positioning themselves as the ultimate kingmakers of the modern era. To understand the sheer magnitude of this betrayal, one must examine the dark history of palace infighting that has plagued the royal household since the tragic passing of Diana, Princess of Wales. The palace has never truly healed from that foundational fracture, and instead of unity, 2 distinct, warring ecosystems developed within the royal estate. On one side stood the traditionalists, the old money aristocrats and corporate handlers who aligned themselves with Charles and Camilla, viewing the monarchy as a vehicle for preserving institutional wealth and political leverage. On the other side stood the modernizers, a younger, fiercely protective faction loyal to the memory of Diana and completely invested in the ultimate ascension of William and Catherine. For years, these two factions have engaged in a silent subterranean Cold War, leaking damaging stories about one another to the tabloid press, manipulating seating arrangements at state dinners, and fighting over multi-million-dollar duchy revenues. But while the public was distracted by the glitz and glamour of high-profile weddings and jubilee celebrations, the internal rot was deepening, reaching a critical boiling point when King Charles's recent health battles exposed just how fragile the structure truly was. The moment the monarch's vulnerability became public knowledge, the vultures began circling the throne, with rival households drafting competing succession blueprints that would have effectively reduced William's future reign to a mere puppet show controlled by behind-the-scenes handlers. This secret document is Charles's definitive, final answer to that treasonous overreach, a legal guillotine dropped on the necks of those who thought they could outmaneuver the crown. The sheer panic currently rippling through the corridors of Buckingham Palace is not rooted in a fear of constitutional instability, but rather the terrifying realization that their access to unlimited wealth, global prestige, and political immunity has been systematically erased with a single stroke of a black fountain pen. The absolute secrecy surrounding the signing ceremony was so profound that even the most advanced surveillance apparatuses of the modern state were completely blind to it, ensuring that no leaks could compromise the tactical strike before the ink was fully dry. Charles reached the final page of the instrument, the page bearing his eldest son's full legal titles, and paused as his fingers tightened around the pen with a level of intensity that betrayed his outward composure. This was no longer a matter of royal bureaucracy or routine legal compliance. This was a father consciously signing away the twilight of his own historic reign and acknowledging that the modern world belongs entirely to the next generation, regardless of the personal cost. The emotional weight of that realization would be enough to break a lesser man, but the king knew that hesitation would mean the absolute destruction of his family's legacy at the hands of the very people he had invited into his inner circle. Queen Camilla learned of this midnight meeting only after the final royal seal had been pressed into the hot wax, solidifying the document into an unalterable piece of constitutional law that no court in the land could challenge. She stood outside the locked doors of the private study, her face hardening into a mask of pure disbelief as a senior aide confirmed that the queen consort had been entirely, deliberately excluded from the consultation process. For a woman who has spent decades navigating the treacherous waters of public scorn and palace intrigue, to secure her place at the absolute pinnacle of British society, this was the ultimate public and private humiliation. The door had closed firmly before she could utter a single word of protest, leaving her to realize that her hard-won authority, her extensive network of patronages, and her future influence over the direction of the crown had been completely neutralized in a single evening. The most dangerous clauses of the document remained hidden from her sight, buried deep within complex legal jargon that specifically barred anyone outside the direct bloodline of succession from holding a seat on the newly formed Coronation Council. This means that the entire apparatus responsible for planning the opening image of the next era is entirely insulated from the influence of marital additions, corporate sponsors, or ambitious courtiers looking to secure their own longevity. Furthermore, the document explicitly dictates that William's future ceremony must be entirely built around the concepts of absolute public service, extreme financial restraint, and a profound, undeniable tribute to the memory of Diana, Princess of Wales. This specific clause is a direct, deliberate emotional strike against the current establishment, ensuring that the legacy of the woman who nearly dismantled the monarchy in the 90s will be the foundational cornerstone of the future reign. The old palace culture, defined by whispered backroom deals, lavish expenditures, and aristocratic entitlement, was effectively executed in that locked room, and as the secretary placed the finalized papers back into the red dispatch box, the king looked up and delivered a chilling command that would set the stage for the chaotic events of the following morning. He looked directly into the eyes of his constitutional secretary and said there must be no confusion when the hour comes, knowing fully well that the document he had just authorized would spark an immediate, vicious internal warfare the moment the first copy reached its intended destination at Adelaide Cottage. Before the first rays of dawn could pierce the thick London fog, a private motorcycle courier, traveling under an anonymous military escort, was ordered to carry one of the 3 sealed copies directly to Prince William, who at that precise moment had absolutely no idea that his father had just violently accelerated the beginning of his reign. When that heavy